eLogger that is date and time together. So we're going to create individual ones. And I can have it default to the current date by putting a check mark down here at the bottom, so I am going to go ahead and do that. And I'm just going to save and quit and keep going with my new ones. The next one is a time field. And by choosing time field off of this list, that means it's going to render with a little clock so that the users can pick the time. And I'm going to have it go ahead and default to the current time as well. I'm forgetting to pick the incidents on my categories. I'm notorious for that. But you could always go back and put them in if you forget as well. So my next field is the nature of the incident. And that one's going to be a text box. Text boxes are easy. We can just save them without doing too much to them. We actually have 3 text boxes right in a row here. Medical care received. And the last one, which is the diagnosis. And we'll go ahead and save that. You can see there's some options down here on the screen for text boxes where you can check ranges and you can validate the information that you put in. This is also where you make fields mandatory and searchable as well. Okay, so down at the bottom here under the details section, we actually see we have the date, time, nature of the incident, medical care received, and diagnosis. So we've got 2 templates now, and we've got just a couple more to go. I'll go ahead and save this one and do the next one. The next template is the detailed description. And that's just this big section here with lots of room for text. And again, we're going to add our logs and the locations that we want to use this at. And we're just going to add one field here, and it's basically a comments field. We're going to make this a memo field because we want them to be able to add lots and lots of characters on it. And I want it to be formatable. I want them to be able to format the information they put in. And what that does is it changes it and gives you spell checking and bolding and underlining and colors and all that good stuff. So I'm going to go ahead and save and quit. And just a note for you, when you do a memo field, if there's one memo field in the template, it'll stretch the full width of the screen. If there's 2 memo fields, or 2 fields, period, in a template, it'll only be half the size of the screen. It'll only stretch halfway across. So if you want a memo field that goes all the way across your screen, you need to only put 1 per template. 1 field per template, regardless of what kind it is. So I'm going to go ahead and save that one. That was my detailed description. And our next section is the injury specifics. You can see this section is a little bit different in where it's columnar data, and there's just 3 columns of information. So I'm going to show you how to do a multi-row grid. It's called an eLogger. We're going to go ahead and save this one and create a new template. If in doubt, save. That's my motto. If you don't know if you've saved something, save it again. So this section is called Injury Specifics, and we're going to do a multi-row grid. It's going to be incidents at Synap, and we are going to go ahead and add 3 rows, or I'm sorry, 3 fields, which are going to create this little table for us. And the first one is the body part injured. And this is going to be let's say it's going to be a drop down. And we'll go ahead and create a new list, and we'll just start at the top of the body, head, neck, shoulders, arms, trunk, legs, feet. Clearly I'm missing a few parts, but we'll go with that. And we'll just leave them in that order, top to bottom. We'll save and quit there, and we'll go ahead and add our next one. And our next field is which side. And let's make this a radio button. And so it would be something like left, right, center, front, back. And then the last one is let's do another nature of injury. And we'll let that be a text field. They can just put whatever they want in there. Okay, so now if you look at the data entry screen down below in the preview, it actually has created a little table for us. And what that allows you to do is when you're doing data entry, if somebody hurt their finger, you could add one row of data. But if they hurt their finger, their hand, their arm, and their neck, you could actually do 4 rows of data on this single log entry to show the different injuries that they sustained in this one form. So I'm going to go ahead and save this. We just have a couple sections left to create. And those are for the actual approving or acknowledging of this form. Because down at the bottom, I've got a couple of sections called signatures needed, and I'm looking for sign-off from the department manager and the facility manager. So to go ahead and do those, let's go back to eLogger, and I'm going to create a new template. And this one I'll call department manager. Acknowledgement, I always spell it wrong. Again, we're going to put it on the incidence log and the Synapse North location. And actually, I'm going to do a multi-row on this because I like how it looks on the screen better. And I'm going to use 3 fields for this. The first thing I want to know is it acknowledged? And I'm just going to do a radio button here, and I'm going to do a new list and just call it yes, no, because I'm going to copy this later. And that's their choices, yes or no. So I'll go ahead and save this. And when we're doing something like an electronic signature that we're doing here, I think it's important that the system goes ahead and creates or captures the name of the user signed in so we know that it's who it is. So we have a couple field types here. One is called the created by, and what that does is it captures the name of the person who is logged in, and you can see it got me there. It's not editable. You can't change it. It only captures the name of the person logged in, and that's what I want this to do. Let me shut this section so we can see the screen here. So I have acknowledged question mark, by question mark, and then we also want the date. And I'm actually going to put date acknowledged. And I'm also going to use the create date on this because what that's going to do is it's going to capture the current date, and it's not going to be changeable. So we're going to go ahead and save this one as well. So you can see down at the bottom here under my preview, I've got the department manager acknowledgement section. And so when you log in to acknowledge this, it's captured your name, it's captured the date and time. All you have to do is say whether or not you've acknowledged it. So we'll go ahead and save this, and we're going to create the same exact thing for the facility manager section. So it gets easier now. Rather than add all new fields, I can actually just choose existing fields. So my first one was acknowledged yes or no. So all I have to do is identify which field. I'll do it slower this time. The next one was by who. So I pick by. I'm choosing an existing field. It actually opens that screen up and I save it. And the next one was date acknowledged. You can see I actually have a typo on that, so I'll fix that. We can also see that I forgot to make this a multi-row grid, so it looks awful funny now. So we'll just go up here and change that and save it. And it looks much better now. Okay, so we've created our 6 templates, our 6 sections of the form. But there's one more thing that I want to add. I want to actually add a status section. And the reason I want to add a status section is because I need something that's going to trigger me on when to let people know it's ready to be approved. So I'm going to go ahead and create one more template, and we're going to call it status. And I'm going to do the same location and logs. And I'm just going to put one field on it, and it's going to be a radio button. And we're going to call it status. How's that for originality? And we'll make it a radio button. And we're going to have something like investigating, ready for department acknowledgement, and ready for facility acknowledgement, and maybe one that says complete. So these are our 4 statuses. So I'm going to go ahead and save that. And if we go back to our templates overview, you can see these are going to display on the screen in the same order as the sort order. So if I resort these, it's going to follow the exact order as my form, classification, then details. But I want the status up at the top, so I'm actually going to go back in there and edit that sort order so that it's back on the top of the page. So I'll just make it number 1. So now the status is up at the top of the page. So the next thing we're going to do, we've actually finished creating our form. Not bad, it took us less than a half hour. We're going to actually go in and set up some email rules so we know who should be emailed at what time when certain things happen. And after we do that, we're going to set up the security for it, and then we're going to go through and try to enter some records so we can see what it actually looks like. So I'm going to go ahead and click on the email tab. And I'm going to create a new email rule, and it's going to apply to the incidents log. And I'm going to apply this one to all Synapse North locations. And my subject line, I can actually leave blank because over here under the settings tab, there's a setting that defaults the subject line, and it'll say something like the type of log, the location, and log entry number, I believe. But you guys can set it however you want under settings. For mine, I'm just going to let it default, and I'm going to concentrate on putting my information into the email body and into the attachment. So the first thing I want to do is whenever an incident log is created, period. In fact, whenever anything happens with an incident, I want my safety manager to be notified, always. So we're going to pretend that I'm the safety manager, just so that I get these emails and can show them to you as we're doing the demo. Now, if there's a couple of different people you want to get emails every time something happens with an incident, you can just delimit the email addresses. I can put a couple of them in here. And there's really no limit as to how many people will get these emails. But keep in mind that every time this record is touched, these emails are going to go out because we have no qualifications on here. We're saying every time something gets entered into Synapse North in the incident log, send an email, and that applies to adding new ones and editing. So you want to make sure that the people that you put on this email list really